We hosted was the Olympic swimming trials last year, where we put a swimming pool inside an NFL stadium. Yeah, and I love being able to talk about what Indiana Sports Corp does because typically sports commissions are very much behind the scenes. And Indiana Sports Corp was actually the first sports commission ever created. So Indianapolis was known actually as Indianopolis. So no one was coming here to play or to go to events. And the leaders at the time knew that. They acknowledged that. And so, what better thing to build a city strategy around than sports? So, really, the pillars of that strategy were events, venues, and organizations. So, that's what they were focused on build sports around those three pillars and build up the city's reputation. So, now we're here, more than 40 years later, really still executing on what that whole vision was. We've hosted more than 500 events, as you've mentioned. We have a great relationship with the NCAA. Their headquarters are here. That was part of the sports strategy. They moved here to Indianapolis in 1999. Great relationships with national governing bodies like USA Gymnastics, USA Track and Field. We've hosted a lot of Olympic trials. Probably the biggest one we hosted was the Olympic swimming trials last year, where we put a swimming pool inside an NFL stadium. Had never been done before, and we'll do it again in 2028 prior to LA 28 when they do that in LA. So it's just been an incredible journey. We were the first sports commission. Now there's more than 350 in the country. So, as you notice in sports, all of these, there's so many great host cities and all of these venues coming online. I feel like we hear about a new stadium being built once a month at least. But everyone is really looking towards sports as that strategy. So it's an exciting time to be a part of it. A lot of things are happening in sports. A lot of things are happening in Indiana in sports. The Pacers made it to the finals. The Fever had a great run, and we're excited for Caitlin to get healthy again and be back on the court. IU is killing it, clearly. Colts, they had a great start, and these injuries, man, I'm telling you, but it's been a really, really great time in sports, and honestly, a time for women in sports, too. We have a female CEO of the Pacers, three great sisters running the Colts, a lot of great females working in sports here in Indianapolis in the state of Indiana, so it's a great time, and we're just focused on, what's next and moving it forward.
Well, I have to ask you, you just brought it up, and I was so curious. How were you able to put a swimming pool in an NFL stadium? Like, talk about that and the stories behind it and
Oh
your
my
involvement.
gosh. We're crazy? No. It's so funny because we have taken some big risks in Indianapolis. We way back in the 80s, we built the Hoosier Dome, which is now Lucas Oil Stadium, without a team. We didn't have the Colts yet, and we built the stadium. Big risk. We hosted all of March Madness in 2021 during a global pandemic. That was pretty big risk. So yeah, put a pool in an NFL stadium, no problem. But it honestly was an idea that came to us from USA Swimming. Their president at the time in 2019 brought it to some of our community leaders who he knew very well and said, hey, we're thinking about this for 2024. We want to take the trials to the next level. We've outgrown our capacity for the trials. They were formerly at Omaha, and which sat, I think, around 15,000 people. And they said, we're actually meeting that capacity, and we want to grow it. We want to grow the sport of swimming. And I think that was a wonderful way to do it. I think what was really helpful too is Lucas Oil Stadium was very open to the idea of, they host a lot of different events in their stadium. So I think they were very open to it. The head of Lucas Oil Stadium, actually, he is a former swimmer from IU. So I think he was excited about the opportunity. So I think it just takes people with big vision, but also who are really willing to do the work, because it was a lot of work. It's hard for people to imagine like a swim meet in an NFL stadium, and we had to fill a lot of seats, and you also have to educate people on swimming. Not all people, swimming isn't like the biggest fan event that you would think of, but we were able to really make it a huge spectacle, and I was so excited about what it did for the athletes and the sport itself. We just had a lot of people there that had never actually been to a swim meet, and so we host a lot of basketball and football, but to actually say you can grow a sport through an event is pretty special.
One of the things that's really unique and interesting about Indianapolis is just how interconnected
Yeah.
the venues, the hotels, the
Yeah.
restaurants right next door. I'm sure that's a big part of the sell that you're able to do on behalf of being able to bring in and attract these types of events.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because when I think back to 2020 and 2021, when the NCAA called us about, hey, we are thinking of hosting the whole tournament in one city for safety reasons. And, everyone was, doing their own bubbles. They had the bubble in Orlando for the NBA. We were thinking about it and we said, man, downtown Indianapolis is like a bubble. There's, for people who don't know, we have over 5,000 hotel rooms that are connected by skywalk. So you actually don't have to go outside at all. We have a tunnel that goes under the street that connects the convention center and Lucas Oil Stadium, our football stadium. So it's just funny. It was funny to think about that and say, oh my God, that is a huge benefit to us. And I think sometimes people say, oh, well, Indianapolis is a smaller city. It's, it's not a Vegas or a Miami or things like that. But there are definite benefits to being a smaller city. When we host an event, like you said, the downtown is so compact. Not only can people get around easily, but the event takes over the city. I mean, the event is happening no matter where you go. So we've heard from, partners who might have gone to bigger cities that said, yeah, it was nice because it's a big city, but it just didn't feel like our event took over. And in Indy, whether we're hosting a Final Four or college football playoff, like there's no way that you don't know about the event. I mean, from the time that you land in the airport to getting downtown, like it takes over. So I think when people complain about it being smaller, I see it as a huge benefit for us.
Do you find any difference when you're working with a professional league, say like the NBA for the All-Star game versus the NCAA?
Oh yeah, everyone's different. And it really, it depends on how their staffs are structured and also what their focuses are. So you just have to, as a host city, you have to be really flexible and you have to understand, what are their goals, what are their priorities, and what resources do they have. With USA Swimming and planning the trials, I mean, I have a call with them tomorrow to start talking about all of the planning and when we're putting tickets on sale and everything. For an NBA All-Star game, I wouldn't be having that conversation for at least another year, So it's just everyone works differently and you kind of have to accept that. Sometimes it's hard for us in Indy because we want to go, and we want to start the planning and we want to have the conversations, but you always have to be really understanding about that. It's also interesting because all of their bid processes are different. So, for the NCAA, they open up their bid processes for their events, and any city can really put in their interest. Now they have to have the right facilities and everything, but it's pretty open. Whereas the NFL, you really have to work on those relationships and they really have to invite you to bid on things like a Super Bowl or a draft or things like that. So they all work differently, and that's where the relationship building really comes into play. And again, being flexible and learning how to kind of go with the flow.